Hey everybody, it's Tony Zayas here for another episode of the SaaS Founder Show. Thank you for tuning in. This show is the one where we really dive in and we take a look at SaaS founders and their journey along the way, kind of where they came up with a unique idea, how they took it to market, and what have been some of the learning lessons along the way. Before we introduce today's guest, I just wanted to point out to everyone that Insivia is going to be hosting a tech throwdown event for tech startups, SaaS companies, so on and so forth. And it's going to be happening September 29th. And we're going to have more as we get closer, but we're excited about it. It's in conjunction with the Greater Cleveland Partnerships Tech Week. And we're excited to be involved with this. We'll actually have a special SaaS Founder Show that day prior to the event, so we're looking forward to it. So just a little teaser there. More information will be coming on that. It is on our website, but we'll be sharing more. To switch gears and talk about today's guest, we have John Kazarian. He's the founder and CEO at Accelevents. Interesting work they're doing, helping event organizers create real experiences through virtual events. Something that's very, very timely, obviously, with the state of the world over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now. So with that, let me bring John in. Hey,
Thanks
John.
for having me on.
Yeah, how you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Awesome. Yeah, doing really well. I think it's super interesting what you guys do, and we'll dive into it and talk. But like, how timely is it for the platform and the service that you guys are bringing to the table? So tell us a little bit about Accelevents, and then I would love to hear the origin story. Where did the idea come from and all of that?
Yeah, certainly. We've gone through a few transitions over the years, but today Accelevents is a technology company focused on all elements of the event experience. In the current climate, that tends to be more focused on the virtual event experience. It's our goal to provide event organizers and marketers an opportunity to create a very robust event experience with numerous elements and all the customization that they need to essentially reach whatever their event goals might be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you started the business a few years back. You said it went through some changes and whatnot. So what was the initial idea? And like, how did you come up with the concept? Was there something that you were trying to solve, an issue you were dealing with yourself, or where did that come from?
Yeah, so actually I started the business in 2015 as a result of a fundraiser I was hosting in 2014. At the time, my cousin got diagnosed with cancer and I wanted to do something for her. So went down to the aquarium in Boston, rented it out, and ended up getting 840 people to that first event, which was awesome, but we just couldn't find any affordable technology to run the auction and the raffle. So having a bit of a tech background, built out our own solution, and frankly, it worked really well. We got great feedback from the organization we put the event on for, from the attendees, and decided that there were a lot of other volunteers like ourselves who could benefit from this. So began building a business around that. Was doing it nights and weekends while working another job. And as things started to grow and progress, the feedback we were getting from organizers was that they wanted a full service solution in terms of having ticketing and payment processing under the same roof. So all of this was kind of the beginning of the meshing of technology and events for me, and the recognition that, well, in a lot of ways, events were somewhat antiquated, and there was a lot of opportunity for technology to bring them up to speed. So things were growing. We were still quite small, but ticking along. And come March of 2020, obviously the world got turned upside down, and at that point, we essentially watched our revenue go to zero with all the refunds from canceled events. And at that point, our options were either to buckle down on the fundraising side of the business or to make a pivot. And given that we had this belief that technology needed to be a bigger part of events, our thought was, okay, well, let's make this transition. And if the world reopens in 2 weeks, great. We're further along on something we believe in anyway. And if not, well, we're going to be better positioned for it. And obviously the world didn't reopen. So at that point, we just continued to invest and buckle down on building the virtual event solutions. And the business really just started to take off from there.
That's awesome. So it really started out more of a technology solution to support in-person live events, correct?
Yep.
And then the pandemic kind of forced that pivot, it sounds like. What was going through your mind, from just a founder perspective when everything shut down? You have a business that is driven by events. Kind of what went through your head, and how hard was it to make that decision that, let's go for this. Let's focus on, the virtual side of things.
Yeah, it certainly was a big decision. I think it was probably the point in the company where I had to make the biggest, let's take a huge risk decision.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I wish I was making those types of decisions earlier.
Mm.
And this, unfortunately, this ended up being the correct decision. But certainly it was challenging. I mean, there was, if it didn't work out and we used the remainder of our very limited capital to go down that route, then that would have been it.
So how did the year end up for you guys? So that pivot happened. You said ton of refunds, right? All these live events are being canceled. Obviously, everyone had some experience with that, whether you were planning on attending, thinking about attending something, hosting something. Everyone was affected by that. What did the timeline look like from when you made that decision, from when the world started shutting down to when you made the decision to when you guys were able to kind of build back up?
Yeah, so we made the decision in the beginning of March, and we hosted the first virtual event on the platform right before Memorial Day, so sort of the end of middle of May. And it was very, the platform was much more limited then than it is today. We've iterated and we've grown through the feedback that we've got from our customers and our event organizers. These folks are incredibly passionate about what they're creating. And one of the really cool things about working with event organizers is that they're creatives. They've got tons of great ideas, and they're the best in the world at coming up with ways to implement solutions, taking an empty function hall or venue or trade show floor and turning it into an unforgettable experience, and working and partnering with our customers to get that feedback and develop that into our platform and learn and iterate from that. It really is how we got to the point that we are today. In terms of the type of growth that we've seen, just this week, actually, Inc. published their top 5,000 fastest growing companies, and we were number 181. So we've definitely seen some growth, over 2,000% over the past year. So things are moving in the right direction.
Congratulations! That's fantastic. Big achievement. Thank you. Yeah, that's outstanding. So I'm curious to hear a little bit about the iterations based on. So let's go back to this first. Usually we ask about that MVP, right? What you guys initially launched. But what I'd be more interested in is, what was that MVP that looked like a year ago when you made the pivot? Because that's really where there was a small window between you making the decision and then launching the virtual platform. It was probably, you had to be pretty bare bones about it. What did it look like?
Yeah, we approached it pretty ambitiously. So we had a very strong vision of what we wanted the platform to look like and how we wanted to function. But implementing all of that so quickly is certainly a challenge. In terms of what that first iteration looked like, really the biggest differentiation between what we were building in, say, a traditional webinar platform were a couple-fold. One, it's supporting simultaneous content. And another big aspect of it is the networking side of things. So providing opportunities for attendees to interact with each other, sort of like speed dating style interaction. And then the third big component at that time was the sponsor and exhibitor experience. And this is certainly an area that we've buckled down on quite heavily since. And that was kind of like phase one of the MVP. So from there, we've iterated quite a bit and introduced a bunch of additional functionality that kind of runs the gamut in terms of everything that you need to facilitate and organize a conference of either 200 people or 20,000.
It's exciting. And then how did you get these users on this platform? How did you capture the user feedback? What kind of process do you have in place? Obviously, you said you guys are building out based on, it's iterative, based on feedback and all that. What do you guys have in place, and how do you go about that? I'm imagining it's with some intention. So I'd love to hear kind of what are the touch points that you have to hear back from those users, because you said, they have like such great and creative ideas, which is fantastic. But you got to collect that, right, when you get users. So what does that process look like for you guys?
Definitely. Yeah. So a lot of it is it's partnering with our customers and learning with our customers and setting that expectation that we're all in this together. And because we've set that mentality with our customers, they're very inclined to provide us feedback because they know we're going to act on it. They know it's not just falling into a well. In terms of the ways that we actually go about collecting that information, so we take support it's number one for us. And there's a difference between event tech and traditional SaaS in that you might spend 3 months building an experience, creating an event that culminates in 3 hours. You don't have the luxury of waiting an hour for a response or even 10 minutes. And the team, our customer experience team, they all have that sense of urgency in the way that they interact with our customers. And again, that feeds into this relationship with our customers that make them so inclined to provide us feedback. So we use a platform called Intercom for chat support. And actually just this morning, Whitney, the head of our CX department, pinged me that we broke 30 seconds on our median first response time, down from about 40 seconds last month. So it is really number one for us, is making sure our customers know that we're there for them. And then it's when those customers do have feedback for us, it's like I said before, it's not dropping into a well. It's having that interactive conversation. It's getting on the phone with them to dig in and really understand what is it they're trying to accomplish, what's the problem that they're trying to solve, and how can we leverage our technology or build technology to support what their mission is.
We hear that so often from founders who've built out platforms that have grown and have a ton of success, is that early on and probably ongoing, you need to have those conversations with the users.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who think of a SaaS product, and the ideal is it's something that can scale real hands off. But what is your team's involvement with just those actual interactions with the users? What does that look like? So obviously customer support. You also mentioned like phone calls. How do you guys support the users? How involved is the Accelevents team?
Yeah, so we're as involved or as hands off as you want us to be. We have organizers every day who come to the platform, come to our website, and they launch an event without ever interacting with us. And we have other organizers who they're looking for coaching, and we get involved that way as well. I mean, we've obviously seen thousands of virtual events come across the platform, and we learn from that, and we're here to share that feedback and help everybody make their event as successful as possible. And look, I mean, I'm not going to cut around it. There's an inherent benefit for us. The better experience that one of our organizers creates for their attendees or their sponsors, the more inclined those people are to become our customers. And frankly, that works. And the aligning of incentives it's a win-win across the board.
So what does that team look like, that support team that's working with customers, and how has that grown over time?
Yeah. So when we launched the business, I'd be on the highway and like get an intercom message and have to pull over to respond. From day one for over 7 years, that was always it. I mean, it was setting that mentality from day one that we are there for our customers. And then as the team grew, Chloe joined us 2 years ago. She was our first CX person, customer experience person, and the team continued to build. And we've built the team in the United States. We also have a large team in the Philippines, and that ensures that we do have 24/7 support. So no matter if it's 2 a.m. in New York or if it's 2 p.m. in New York, you're still going to get a response just as quickly. A lot of it's been the culture around it, and just partnering with our customers again, and hiring people who have that mentality and that sense of urgency.
Yeah. And I would imagine that, for events, supporting events, that responsiveness is critical. Not every SaaS platform is going to require that, but what you guys are doing, if I'm in an issue here broadcasting and, I got a big audience. People are waiting to hear from you. This has been a featured event. Like, I need to get to someone fast. So that's interesting. So when you say, culture and team, how do you attract the right fit? And I would love to hear a bit about, the culture that you've built, and how do you attract the right people to join you guys?
Yeah. It's a snowball. We got fortunate in the beginning with the people who joined us, and Chloe and Andrew were the first two hires domestically, and Ariane in the Philippines, and we just got really fortunate that they set the precedent of that culture, and we ensured that we continued to build upon that in who we brought on, and the leadership team having the same mentality, and I think it's that it's just built upon itself. That said, it's something that always needs to be nurtured, and we continue to focus on it and reward it, and identify the people who are really embodying those values that we do believe in. But it's an iterative process, but we started it from day one.
Now is such a tough time for companies all over the place to hire. It's hard finding people, let alone really quality people. You have any feedback tips that you would suggest to find, for that good fit? We talked to another founder just recently, and said, he said, no, he said, it's hiring is always ridiculously hard. And I totally agree. But what have you found that works in that process to get people who are a good fit?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest obstacles we have today as a startup, we have people in 22 states in the US, but now with big companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft offering more remote opportunities, we're battling those companies to hire the best talent. And that just, off the bat, that makes things more challenging. We're up against their budgets. As for what's been successful, frankly, the most successful channel we've had has been referral.
And who has been referring, if I could ask?
No, our existing employees. It's developing a culture and a place that people where they want to work, to the point where they want to bring their friends in.
That's awesome.
Past colleagues, and that's been the strongest thing for us.
That's fantastic. We've seen some of that as well. Some of the best fits at our organization have been those people that employees said, hey, we have an opening, you should come join us, which is fantastic. How would you describe the culture at Accelevents?
Yeah, I'm obviously biased, but I'll do my best to summarize here, or at least try to speak on behalf of others. I think fun. We've got a very engaged team on Slack. There's another Slack channel. Every week I find another Slack channel that I didn't know about, from conspiracy theories to cat pictures, and there's just different aspects. There's a Slack channel we have, which is AE meetups, people who are going out of their way to meet colleagues face to face that they've been interacting with for 6 months online, but never met face to face. And it's just really fun and cool to see. Given that we're also an event platform, we dog feed. We use our own platform as well. So every couple months we use Drizzly, and we send drink kits out to people's houses. And we host an event on our platform for our team. We use different aspects of our platform. We use networking, so people in different departments who don't interact with each other can interact. We have different people giving presentations. We just did we hosted what we call the Accelevents. It was a award show for our team, kind of a mix of superlative type awards, but also things that people who are really embodying aspects of our culture and values that we truly believe in. And frankly, it was just fun. I wore a tuxedo to it, even though it was a virtual event. And I don't know, it was a great way to get people together. And at the same time, everybody is sitting there with their drink making kits and having a good time.
That's cool. Has that culture kind of been there from the start, or at least kind of the foundation, at least the fun, and it sounds like, really getting to know one another and that type of thing? Is that something that you drove and felt was important?
It's obviously, I mean, it's something I felt was important from day one, but frankly, I can't even take that much credit for it. I think it started with the early hires who it was really important to them, and they made sure that it carried through and that it was a norm and an expectation, and that when we were hiring really fast and everybody was trapped in their houses, the team found a way to onboard and make new people feel comfortable and part of the team, and have virtual friends, not just colleagues at work.
So do you have some people on the team that you kind of own, whether it's in a formal role or informally, like driving some of those culture pieces that you rely on? Because I get it, as a founder, you're probably all over the place and you may not have that much time to say, hey, how can we make sure everybody's having fun or getting to meet one another? But those are super important elements to get a cohesive team that works well together.
Absolutely.
What are the people that you have, and that I'm wondering if it just happened naturally that maybe some of those early hires influenced, but are there some people that you kind of lean on for that type of stuff?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even want to say I lean on them, because it's not like I've asked them to do it. It's just that they like that Accelevents, the award show, that event was something that Chloe and Natasha, two people on our team, I mean, they're like, we want to do this. They decided they were going to do it, and they made it happen. They never would have to ask me for permission to do something like that, but they didn't, and they made it happen. Like, the only part I was involved in was that we brainstormed names for a minute, and I mean, that's it. They have that ownership and that ability to do those types of things and bring the team together. And I think it's more about empowering them, giving people opportunity to do that.
How big is the team right now?
Yeah, so we're just under 60 people domestically, and another 67 internationally.
Wow.
The folks overseas are contractors.
And so how does that compare to like the start of 2020? How big was the team at that point?
Yeah, at the start of 2020, we were 3 people domestically.
Wow. So that's where your Inc. 5000, right? Like, I mean, that year you had. So pretty impressive. That's awesome. How did you manage that? How do you manage that growth? And I guess I'll start asking that a little bit more granularly. How do you, as the founder, with a ton of new people on board, fast-growing team, how do you ensure that your vision for the business is communicated and people understand kind of what they've joined on, what they've signed up for, what they're a part of?
So we do a weekly, well, actually, I said that we just switched to bi-weekly all hands meeting, and again, use our own technology, our own platform for that. And that's a mix of presentation from different departments, but also, again, networking opportunities for employees to get to know each other better. In terms of the way that we're communicating that, I think a lot of it comes from observation, from doing it, from like, look, I started the business 7 years ago. We're bootstrapped. We didn't have money to hire contractors or employees to do things. Everything we did, we had to figure out on our own. And as a result of that, and having my hands in each aspect, working alongside people, I think there was a natural handoff, natural transition. And then, trying to wear so many different hats, I'm certainly not the expert on anything for that matter. But as we bring in people who are an expert there, they build upon the success we've already seen and find ways to make it better.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned that you're bootstrapped. Do you look to raise funds, or have you stayed bootstrapped on purpose? Are you looking to raise funds, to grow, or?
Yeah, so for us, reputation is incredibly important. And given how fast we built both the team and the product, it was very important to us that we ensured that the experience we were creating for our customers was something that we're proud of. And I also talked about the natural virality of hosting events. So we need to ensure that every event is a perfect experience. And for that reason, we have elected to grow. I mean, still, mind you, over 2,000%. Over, from 2019 to 2020, we grew very fast, but we grew at a pace that we were comfortable with. And now we're at a point where we have all the processes in place and we're ready to take it to the next step. So we are considering raising capital to accelerate growth further, because the time is right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Going back to that growth, the number of employees and just the year you guys had, that sounds awesome. That sounds like, something that every founder would love to experience. And I'm sure it is mostly positive, but at the same time, with new territory comes challenges and pains. What was the most difficult thing you guys faced, between from when you launched the new product, when you made that pivot, or not new product, but right when you pivoted and focused on the virtual experience, up until now, you got to experience a ton of success and growth. What have been the biggest challenges during that period?
Biggest challenges. Well, I think one would be continuing to maintain that culture and ensure that, that we're building a happy team as we grow so quickly, and that people feel like they have the resources they need to be successful in their job. And that there's upward mobility. Some of the challenges have changed quite a bit over the past year and a half. I mean, in the beginning, as we were figuring out the technology side of things, naturally there were bugs, there were issues, and we've learned through that. And the real-time nature of events meant that it was always on. Like if I went to CVS or the grocery store, I had a laptop in the car. Like I didn't know what was going to come up. And it was just that it was having to be always on and always available. And I think that's always the case being a founder of a tech startup or any startup company for that matter. But the event nature of the business certainly added to that. And the other aspect is that these events were 24/7. I think it was August of last year, so about a year ago, was the last time that there was ever not a live event on the platform at some point in time. Actually, I believe it was July of last year. So there is always a live event going on, and that means anything from deploying updates to the technology or any enhancements we're making, they need to be communicated, because you can't just change something in the middle of somebody's event, right? They've been planning around certain things working a certain way for months now, and we had to keep all that in mind, and there was a lot of growing pains and learnings that we iterated on over the past year and a half.
It's pretty fascinating. I would love to hear a bit about how your role has changed with this rapid growth year and a half. How is your role? What is the evolution of that? How did it look? Start of 2020 to today? Yeah,
so that's actually one of the other very big challenges, that I had basically had 6 years of inherited or developed knowledge of everything from some arbitrary software product that we use that we signed up for 3 years ago but haven't logged into since. That over time, all of those things have to be handed off, and getting out of the day-to-day and being able to focus on strategy and acting as more of a leader than just an executor has been a big learning opportunity for me and a big challenge. But as we've built the team and people have basically, they've become far better at what they're doing than I ever would have been able to do. And we've built a leadership team around that. Those handoffs have been much more solidified today and have allowed me to focus on other aspects of the bigger picture of the business.
Do you enjoy focusing on those bigger picture things, or do you miss some of the execution stuff? Where does your strength and interest lie? What has been hard to let go of? I'll ask that, because I know that's always a challenge.
I don't think there's a single aspect I don't have an interest in or enjoy. So all of it in that case. I like getting my hands dirty, frankly. Like I like jumping into a problem with anybody on the team and just like, let's figure this out. It's fun for me. But also the bigger picture strategy side of things. I mean, it's fun to be constantly learning and thinking about not just the next week or month, but thinking about what's the next year or 3 years look like and what do we have to do today to prepare for that. So it's kind of a zooming out that it's been an interesting experience, and I certainly enjoy that aspect of things as well.
What was going on just from a kind of a human perspective, with all the change in the world, in your business, over this, last year and a half or so? How did that affect you? And, were there moments that you felt, it was harder to get up every day because of perhaps the, a drastic nature of the change that was going on? Did it excite you and drive you? How did you respond to it?
Yeah. So, look, the pandemic sucks. Call it what it is, right? And it's horrible that people are getting sick and dying and all of that. But there's also a lot of people whose careers have been upended, event professionals in particular. And one thing that drives me every day is that our platform and frankly our competitors as well. I mean, this technology has provided event organizers an opportunity to still succeed at what they do best, bringing people together, creating experiences, the demand gen elements of events. And I think that, I know that drives me, and I think that drives our team every day, that we're providing people an opportunity, a chance to have a voice, a platform to communicate and share, an opportunity for people who've been locked in their house for a year to interact with each other. And that's just a really cool opportunity. So I guess to summarize, other than probably not sleeping enough, there isn't much that I'm not getting excited about every morning.
So along the lines of that, not sleeping, and I've been involved enough with events that I realized, the high stress that comes with them. And when it's your business and you're, 24/7 supporting live events, how do you, we don't like to use work-life balance on this show because there usually isn't a balance, but how do you manage, the work-life harmony? How do you get through? What are some of the things that you do to take care of you? Because there's always going to be that lack of sleep. There's always going to be, how do you manage things, I should say?
Yeah. Exercise. I try to exercise 4 or 5 days a week, eat well. I try to catch up on sleep on the weekends. I've been able, as our team has grown, particularly over the past 4 or 5 months, I've been able to detach a little bit more on the weekends, which, it's helpful to be able to get my mind off of it for a couple of hours. But that wasn't the case a year ago.
Yeah. So with the growth, you have had the ability to give yourself a little more time.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Going back to your role, I know early when we first, started this conversation, you mentioned that you had a bit of a tech background. So how involved are you on the technology side of things? Are you helping develop this solution? Are you in there coding? And how did you, what does the team look like if it's more than just you to expand this thing and grow? Because as you mentioned, I think we've talked to others who have, in a similar regard, when you're supplying a platform, like events, and like you said, people are going to go live, you can't change things up on them. And, the button that used to be up here to end the broadcast is now gone, right? Yeah. So how do you work through that? And I would just love to hear your involvement on the technical side.
Yeah, so I've been the product manager since day one until about a month ago. We brought on a VP of product, also named John, which creates no shortage of confusion. but he's excellent. And then somebody on our CX team, Tariq, who's actually in Brazil, he moved over from the CX team to product as well. And our CX team is also incredibly involved. I mean, they're firsthand interacting with customers, as we talked about in the beginning, and they're just very iterative and involved in getting that feedback to our engineering team. Our engineering team is almost entirely based out of India. There are two folks that I started working with 6 years ago now, 6 years ago, who are both brilliant, and we've worked together to build out an incredible team of engineers that have allowed us to move really, really quickly and build very scalable technology that that we're proud of.
So something that we're very familiar with and hear a lot on this show is just the challenge that it could be to find, great engineers and developers, technical people. So you said you met a couple of engineers 6 years ago. How did you find them, and how did you, retain them and expand that group?
Yeah. So originally found them on one of them on Upwork, and then he introduced me to his friend, and since then we've worked together to build that team. In terms of retention, I think there's a lot of mutual respect. That's a big part of it. I don't write code, but I can speak it, or at least talk about the technical challenges and think about the architectural aspects of it. We have since brought a cloud architect on who also focuses a lot on the security side of things, who's based in the States here. But yeah, I think it's providing opportunities for engineers to have new projects and new responsibilities, and to be continuously learning. Like I said, I don't write code, but I think I know enough to say that it can be boring if you're doing the same thing in and out. There's so much technology, new technology, and it's moving so quickly that engineers want to work on new, exciting projects. They want to implement new things. They want to learn. They want to try things. And since we've been a platform that's iterating so quickly, we've had an infinite number of opportunities to do that and put people in roles where they're not just coding things, but they're doing a lot of research and development as well. So it's providing those opportunities.
That's great. I think that's a great point. I haven't heard that come up much on this show, but I think it's probably very valid. And there's a lot of people that would agree with you. Is keeping people, skills sharp for the engineers and developers, and to that point, you're trying to look out and make sure that they're not getting bored by what they're working on, right? And they're getting a chance to learn and get trained up and test out new things. So that's a pretty cool perspective.
Yeah, I mean, to expand on that, one of our key principles in our hiring process is identifying people who have a growth mindset. And people with a growth mindset inherently want to be continuously learning. So the second that we stop providing opportunities for people to learn, if we hired properly, the people who aren't learning anymore won't want to be here anymore. Yeah. So inherently, we have to ensure that we're continuously providing opportunities for people to learn and get better.
It's a powerful culture piece. Yeah, I mean, to know that is available there is fantastic. So it's really cool to hear. One of the last questions I have, are kind of like the team and dynamic and all of that, is you mentioned bringing on a VP of product management, and you said that you were the product management from day one up until then. And you said that was recent. Well, was that a month ago or so?
Yeah, about a month ago.
So far, how has that been? Kind of passing the torch for someone else to lead product, and what perspective have you gained from it now that you're probably able to look more over the shoulder and less in the trenches?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So this is something where product was the biggest area that I directly focused on, but with every role, every person on our leadership team, every one of those handoffs, there was an aspect of them joining and then them getting up to speed, at what point I started to realize, look, I mean, yeah, they're just doing way better at this than I was. Because everything for me was pretty much self-taught, and these are experts who have also had the opportunity to learn from other experts, and have done it before and seen it before. And I mean, even in the case of John joining us on the product side, this is his world. He's an expert. He's coming in. He's implementing processes that we didn't have in place before that are making us better. And it's only been a couple of weeks now, and it's already apparent, and that gives me the comfort to step back a little bit. But it is, it's hard. I mean, it's my baby. But it's about having that mutual respect and that trust.
So how did you find the other John?
It's recruiting. Yeah. We had the posting up for a while. We interviewed a lot of people, and his vision, alignment, and process was aligned with ours, not just mine, but with the rest of the leadership team. And it was clear that he was a good fit. And as since he's joined, it's even more apparent.
That's great. Great to hear. We'd love to shift gears just a little bit and talk about, what you do is something that, almost every industry, there's events. How do you, from a marketing perspective, who do you target as audience, or what do those, segments look like? Yeah.
So there's a couple of segments that we focus on. One of them is higher education. Another is associations. Another is, we call it brands, but it's SMB, enterprise, those types of organizations. And one of the areas that we differentiate ourselves from on some of the other products out there is we take data privacy and security very seriously. For example, we've done SOC 2 Type 1 already, which for a young company is, I think, a little bit more rare, but it's a testament to our focus there, and certainly helps on the enterprise side of things. And then the other is event professionals. So AV companies, event production companies, event planners, we partner with them and their clients to put the right technology in their hands. As for how we get in front of those organizations, there's a number of different channels that we approach. Some of them are industry publications, but frankly, the biggest aspect is it's product led. It's a natural virality. It's there's a 2-day event with 250 attendees. Well, it's a lot of eyeballs staring at our logo for a couple of days. It's a lot of people learning the platform and seeing how another organization, it's the best case study ever, how another organization is using it and how they could benefit from it just the same. And it's especially true for our sponsors and exhibitors who are participating in the event and getting true value on the lead gen side of things that then has a business impact for them. And they look at that and say, okay, well, we should be doing this. We should be hosting our own event. And we're the natural choice at that point.
That's really fascinating. I guess I'm thinking of it from like the sponsor perspective. It's always difficult, right, to quantify when you're sponsoring a live event in a traditional. You have, you're putting the logo out there and all other things that go along with, a package. What are you guys doing to support, sponsorship within, events that are occurring on your platform?
Yeah. So this is an area that we put a lot of focus on, but it's providing the event organizer dozens and dozens, probably hundreds at this point, of opportunities to promote their sponsors through the platform, whether that be image carousels supporting sponsor logos, different areas to list the logos, opportunities to sponsor certain sessions, also things like gamification to drive attendees to actually go and visit those sponsor booths and interact with sponsors. And then on the sponsor, so that's what we're providing to the event admin, the event organizer, in their effort to sell sponsorships, which frankly are one of the revenue drivers for these events. A lot more of these events are free for attendees to participate in than traditional in-person events. And they're covering their costs for production and speakers and the technology through those sponsor fees. On the sponsor side of things, we have a very robust opportunity for sponsors to build out basically their booths or microsites within the platform, but not just building out a static landing page, providing them all of the real-time data that they need when interacting with leads. So knowing, okay, a lead popped into my booth, I'm on camera, they can chat with me, I can see what documents they downloaded, which products they looked at, which links they clicked, all in real time, and have a conversation with them, a topical conversation based on the things that they're showing me interest in real time, so that you're actually having a conversation that moves the needle. And then all of that data is collected as well. So from a lead gen perspective, you as the exhibitor can easily look back and say, okay, we participated in this 2-day event, and as a result, we got 260 leads out of it. Let's go look, how many of those leads are we able to convert, enriching our CRM data with that, and ultimately proving the value of that. And at the same time, it's far cheaper to participate in a virtual event as an exhibitor, as an organizer, than it is to send people to Vegas, all of the on-site printing and booth setup and hotels and steak dinners that go into that. Whereas with the virtual event, I mean, just taking the travel out of it alone, you could participate in twice as many events for less money.
But you're delivering that booth experience, so those exhibitors are able to talk to the attendees.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. You mentioned gamification. I would love to hear some of the things you guys are doing with that, because I think the challenge, people have had they're calling it Zoom fatigue, that everybody's, been on these virtual, events, these virtual meetings, I should say. And they're boring if the conversation's not good. And so what have you guys done along the lines of gamification? Because I think I'm fascinated by that. I think that's such a great way to improve experience. Yeah.
So the Zoom fatigue, I mean, that's one aspect of being on camera all day. I mean, you feel like you're presenting, it's straining, it's tiring. I certainly get that. But the event experience and a traditional Zoom meeting, in our opinion, it's quite different. The event it's much more multifaceted. There are far more experiences, and gamification is certainly one of them. So it could be something as simple as you take your top 3, your title sponsor, for example, and the title sponsor might say, hey, we're going to give an iPad to the top 3 people who collect the most points, and you get points by interacting with that exhibitor or attending, say, the session that exhibitor is putting on, and sticking through for the whole thing, or participating in some sort of networking activity where maybe it's something like a job fair where you've got the employers and the candidates, the potential employees, and people get awarded for the number of interviews that they host. As in this case, it would be most likely the employer, but you're basically providing those opportunities to reward people for their interaction and engagement with the platform.
That's really cool. I'm sure there's so many ideas there of what you guys could do. Do you feel like it sounds incredible? Like this is as you talk about some of the features and things you could do on the platform, makes me want to jump in and try one of these out. So I probably will. And hopefully all of our viewers as well. But do you feel like there's any aspects of the live event to what you're able to deliver? It sounds like a lot of those elements are you're able to simulate, maybe even do better in some cases. Are there any areas that you still feel like you need to offer something to improve on a particular type of experience, or something that you still can't do that can be done live?
I don't think that virtual events are ever going to replace the going to the bar at the end of the event or trade show the same way. Or at least not in the next couple of years. That is a different experience. And even with the return to in-person that we saw this spring, there was a lot of noise about the fact that people were going to these events and they weren't attending the sessions. They were going straight to the bar to interact with each other. And there's certainly a time and a place for that. And the future that we see is a hybrid future, a future not so much the meshing of in-person content with a virtual audience at the same time. Certainly that will be relevant and will occur, but it's more about building that event program and having that flagship event that may or may not be in person, but then tacking on a series of virtual experiences thereafter to bring that audience back together, to re-engage them, to deepen those relationships, instead of it being, hey, I go to this one big event once a year, I meet somebody, maybe I'll run into them again next year, but there's not really any deepening of those relationships. And as community becomes a bigger and bigger element of the way that organizations and brands win, providing opportunities, being that source, that medium where people are coming together and interacting and building that sense of community is just, it's so important. And this is a massive opportunity for virtual events to complement our traditional event program.
Yeah, I love that holistic approach that you take to it, realizing that not going to be able to ever fully replace, but it's like, how do we supplement? How do we improve the experience and the relations? How do we, connect, add more continuity so that those relationships are deepened through that hybrid approach? So I love the way that you're looking at that and the things that you guys are doing in that space. Would love to just shift gears a bit, John, and hear a bit about, what's on deck for the next 12 months. What are some of the things that you're looking to accomplish, features that you're looking to implement, whatever that might be on the roadmap. And then I would also like to hear a little bit from that perspective on how do you make decisions on, implementing new features, and how do you prioritize and all of that. So
yeah.
What does the year look like, first of all?
I can't get too in depth on the feature roadmap, but I can speak to how we think about that process. There's a meshing of collecting that customer feedback and trying to identify the problem that they're trying to solve and taking their suggestions on solutions to it, with us understanding what technology is capable of, what technology can do, and thinking about the opportunities to solve a problem that maybe an organizer never really considered. That, in my opinion, is ultimately our responsibility as a leader in this space who's helping to identify what the future looks like for events. So that's an ongoing process for us, thinking about the vision, the future of what an event technology stack looks like for organizations, brands, et cetera.
And then what are the aspirations? Let's say 3 years out. What are the goals that you have? What does the vision look like?
So our vision is to continue to build upon the experiences that we're creating. We want to be the one-stop shop technology provider for all of your event needs, for in-person events, for virtual events, hybrid events, while also being that source of truth for all of the event data that's being collected, and then being fully integrated into your entire marketing tech stack, marketing and sales tech stack for that matter, and really just being that holistic solution. We are obviously planning to continue to grow, expand our team, expand our go-to-market operations, while also continuing to invest in product just as heavily as we have been, because I think we're just scratching the surface of what's truly possible today.
That's fantastic. Such an interesting space to be in with all the innovation and changes so rapid. I would love to hear a bit about, someone who has this, I think I'm breaking up a little bit, but someone who's built this dynamic, thriving business. Who have been some of the people that you've leaned on, whether those are mentors, whether those are, peers, friends? What does your kind of support and mentorship network look like?
Yeah, family is a big part of it. My fiance, my brother actually is on our sales team, and then it's the team itself. It's those are the people who are most in the weeds. They see the same problems that I do, and often problems I don't see, and having people who really get it and understand it to bounce off of is it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool, and I like that you have that family element. Every now and then we hear that. Sometimes we hear from founders who say, nope, we want to separate, I need to keep family separate from the business. And then there's others who are really in it with family. So the fact that you're able to, get ideas and support from your fiance, your brother, pretty cool. John, can you tell us where we can learn more about Accelevents, follow you, keep up with you guys and what you're doing? I would love for our audience to go and check you guys out.
Yeah, definitely. So a LinkedIn, Accelevents. I'm on LinkedIn, John Kazarian. We also have a Facebook group called Event Talk Live, Event Talk, which is a great opportunity for anybody who's considering hosting an event or is an event professional to come and interact with other event professionals in the community and learn and see how they're executing their event program throughout the year. So that's a great place to check out as well. And then other mediums like Twitter as well, and our blog and our website.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really cool. And I have a few people that are event professionals. I'm going to let them know about that group because that sounds pretty interesting. Last question, John, before we wrap up here, I would just like to hear, we like to ask this one. If you were able to go back, beginning of right before you started this business, and you were able to sit down, have a cup of coffee with your past self and offer up one piece of advice, what would it be?
To take bigger risks. I think it was very conservative in the beginning in our approach and the way that we were building and going to market. And we could have moved faster. Frankly, we could have failed faster as well had we taken bigger risks earlier. But that's something that I'm learning from and is a focus going forward.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, John Kazarian, Accelevents. This has been a fantastic conversation, John. Really appreciate your time here today. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you again next week and appreciate you joining. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.